Welcome to the Sugar Show. I am here alone by myself for this episode. Justin called me last night and said he could not make it today. We're not going to bring you an NFL or NBA episode today. I'm going to be talking UFC 292 and some other news in the mixed martial arts or combat sports world. We will definitely be bringing you the NFL and NBA episode this upcoming Sunday morning. Me and Justin are going to record that live for you guys, so no need to worry or panic for that. But I am here live, no episode number. We're just doing a predictions and covering the news in UFC, MMA, combat sports world. I gotta stop saying we because it's just me. I'm alone right now, but maybe you're here with me watching. Before I get to the to the brass tacks, I guess I should say, please leave a like, comment with me along, tell me your predictions for UFC 292 or any other topics that I start to talk about later on. Share the content with your friends and family, on your social media, your followers, your subscribers, whatever you want to call them, people that you may know. Turn on the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live or when we post out videos and whatnot. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's dive into UFC 292 live from Boston, Massachusetts. As you guys heard when I started off the show, welcome to the Sugar Show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Sean O'Malley is now main eventing, headlining, fighting in a 5-round fight in his first ever title shot this Saturday night against the current undisputed UFC bantamweight champion, the reigning and defending, I might add, Aljamain Sterling. Now, I feel like, the obvious answer when asked, who do you believe is going to win this fight? I'm no expert, right? I'm just a guy who likes the UFC, loves the UFC, major fan of mixed martial arts and combat sports in general. I'm only giving you my perspective. I can't give you the perspective of an actual fighter because I am not an actual fighter. I'm more of a lover than a fighter, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. But from my vantage point, my point of view, right? I feel like it's pretty obvious what this fight kind of boils down to. It's wrestler versus striker. Aljamain Sterling obviously has the massive advantage in the wrestling department. And Sugar Sean O'Malley has an advantage, or massive if you want to add that as well, in the striking department when it's on the feet. Grappling, I would give Aljo the edge, but Suga is not to be slouched on or slept on in terms of his grappling. It's like I said, I give Sterling the edge there, but don't sleep on Suga's grappling. You can sleep on his wrestling. If you saw his last fight against Piotr Jan, I mean, he was getting ragdolled. Pretty badly. If you saw the video recently, cut up together and put together for a lot of his fence grabbings, and him just still getting a ragdolled. The trip was a thing of beauty. So hopefully in this last year, he has been working his tail off in stopping these wrestling exchanges. Now, I will say, in terms of Sterling, right, getting the takedown, it's more about the Khabib aura, I guess you want to say. It's not if he gets the takedown, it's when he gets the takedown, and then the question becomes, how well does Sean defend the takedown? How well is he able to get up without, getting backpacked, which Aljo, if you listen to the experts of this game, will tell you, Aljo's, in terms of getting to the back and securing the hooks and the submission, is probably top 3, top 5 in the whole sport. Arguably the best. I mean, everybody saw what he did to Corey in less than 2 minutes, I believe it was. That's just absolutely insane. So for what I would say is Suga can't have his it's the same game plan when you fight an Islam or a Habib or anybody like that, right? You can't have your back to the cage. You can't be the one backing up. You can't be the one whose foot is literally an inch from the cage, because as soon as that happens, we know what's going to happen. They're diving for your legs. They're looking for the clinch, and they're trying to get the takedown. So for Sean, it's simple of you got to control the center of the octagon. You have to be the aggressor. You have to be the one walking forward. You have to control the center of the octagon. You have to win that battle. That's going to be very tough, especially when you're going up against a wrestler, because you know he wants to shoot. But as Henry, and obviously Sean's wrestling is nowhere near Henry Cejudo's wrestling ability. The guy's a goddamn Olympic gold medalist for a goddamn reason. But as Henry showed, and as a lot of people said leading up into that fight, Sterling is a great, phenomenal MMA wrestler when it comes to up against the cage. In the open mat, there's a lot to be left desired, right? So I think Sean can, as long as he just keeps it in the center of the octagon, he can do a much better job of defending the takedowns, throwing up those knees, the uppercuts, things of that nature. So yeah, the obvious game plan is, don't get taken down, right? Now, what do I think is going to happen? I would say the best bet, right, is this fight is not going the distance. I think if it ends in a TKO or knockout, I think Sean is the one getting the job done. And I think if it ends by submission, Aljo is the one getting the job done. Both guys are predicting first round finishes. You got Sean predicting the first round knockout. You got Sterling predicting a first round finish. It's going to be I do expect Aljo to test it on the feet a little bit. If he starts getting stung, obviously expect the takedowns. But what I would say is I am complete, full disclosure, right? I'm a massive Sean O'Malley fan. Sterling has started to gain my respect a lot more. I'm not one of those people who holds the things against him. I do believe, it's not holding against him. The first Petr Yan fight was the first Petr Yan fight. He won the first round coming out like a banshee and then completely just bottomed out, and Yan was able to just pick him apart, and he was on his way to a very, very decisive win, if not a finish later on. And then the knee happened, and then we all know what happened. I believed, like I think a lot of people, he was going to get dominated in the Yan rematch. And that was not the case. Aljo said, I get this neck surgery. Trust me, it's going to be different. And it was different. He showed up and showed out and beat Petr Yan decisively. In terms of his next couple of fights, though, I'm pulling up his resume right now because I believe it was the TJ fight right after that. Yeah, so after the second Yan fight, and it wasn't decisive, it was a split decision, but I think he pretty clearly won 3-2 rounds against Yan in the second fight. The Dillashaw fight is the one that I guess you could say I hold against him. It's not much holding against him. It's more this guy's being put on a pedestal, right? The greatest bantamweight fighter of all time. The greatest bantamweight champion of all time. Well, if we're putting him in that stratosphere, right? And this guy is a mauler on the ground, arguably the best back game in MMA right now, like I said previously. You go up against any fighter. I don't care how skilled TJ Dillashaw is. I understand how skilled he is. He's a top 3 bantamweight as well of all time. The guy had one arm. That's not hyperbole. He literally only had basically one arm. The other arm kept dislocating. I forget if it was the left or right. I think it was the left. Kept dislocating. I think he said it dislocated upwards of like 14 or 15 times, even more maybe, in the lead up to the fight in his camps. And it popped twice, I believe, in the fight. Once in the first round and then in the second round. I'm disappointed in you. I expect you to finish that guy in the first round. I truly do. And he had the takedown. He had him on the ground. I forget how long he had the control time for. I can pull it up right now and see I mean, 7 minutes of control time. Obviously, that wasn't all in the first round, but a majority of that was in the first round. You got to get the finish, man. I truly do believe that. If you're this guy, if you're, that guy that I just talked about, you got to get the finish. And he didn't. So I was disappointed in him because I expect more out of Aljo. Now, in his next fight against Henry, I've watched this fight twice. I watched it live, and then I watched it a second time. The morning after, I should say. And I still come from the vantage point of I believe Henry Cejudo won that fight. Were there things that Henry could have done differently to help more securely get that fight in terms of the fans and the judges? More importantly, the judges? 100%. Yeah, both guys could have. But I do believe, watching it twice, Henry Cejudo won that fight. Now, that really means jack shit right now because Aljo got the nod by the judges, the only three people that really matter in that point of time. But I'm just telling you my perspective. I believe Henry won that fight. So it's not me holding it against him. It's just more me kind of, after the Jan fight, I expect much more in that TJ fight. You got the finish finally in the second round, but I expected in the first round. And then the Henry fight, I believe you lost that fight. A close fight. I'm not taking anything away. It was a hell of a close fight. But I believe Henry won that fight. So, like I said, to wrap this main event up, I believe it ends in a finish. I believe betting that under 4.5. I actually want to pull up the odds for you guys real quick. DraftKings Sportsbook. Only use DraftKings. We're not sponsored by DraftKings. I would love to be sponsored by DraftKings. Shout out DraftKings. But DraftKings is just infinitely times better than FanDuel. FanDuel is just confusing. Green is better than blue anyway. Everybody knows that. And it's just the DraftKings is just easier and simpler and better. Just bet with DraftKings. All right, so here we go. Aljo versus the Sugar Show. Aljo right now is a minus 258. It's always weird when they do the freaking eights. Like, can't round up to the 10s or 5s or whatever. We got to do 8s. Right now, he's a minus 258 on DraftKings. Almost said FanDuel. Fuck FanDuel. And Sean O'Malley's a plus 210. All right. So if you're very confident in O'Malley getting that knockout, that's a winning recipe for you. I don't think O'Malley is going to be able to win a decision. He's a plus 900 on a decision victory. I don't think he wins a decision. I think the only way O'Malley can win is by knockout. I think he's got a better chance of winning by submission than decision, if I got to be honest, which is a plus 1,800. But knockout plus 330. So if you believe O'Malley's going to win, bet the plus 330 for O'Malley to win by knockout, TKO, or DQ. And then in terms of Aljo, I mean, like I said, I think submission is the best case, and that's what the plus 150 you get that submission. I think that's the best way to go if you're going Aljo. What's the under? So under 3.5 is minus 145. That's not bad odds, to be honest with you. Under 2.5 is plus 105. I don't know about that, but I would bet the under. I would bet somebody's getting finished, I believe, in this main event. That's all. That's what I truly believe. And I know the UFC obviously wants O'Malley to win. I think that's pretty clear. They can say what they want. They want O'Malley to win. I was thinking about this before the show, right? Since Conor, there was only one other guy that was kind of being looked at as this next big thing, right? But he didn't feel anointed. You know what I mean? By the fans, by the media, by the promotion. He kind of took it, right? And that the guy's name is Israel Adesanya, because Adesanya, right? I love that line. He kind of took that, right? His performances captivated the fans and stuff like that. I still remember the Brad Tavares fight, which was the first fight that I was introduced to Izzy, and I was like, oh, this guy's different. This guy's real different. And then 2 fights later, he's fighting Anderson Silva in the main event of a pay-per-view. which was actually a terrible card because a lot of fights got the main event got scrapped. I forget what I think it was Gaslam versus Whitaker. But since Conor, right? As water drips on my hand. Since Conor, this kind of feels like the Sean O'Malley is being positioned, right, as the next big thing. Is this is your time. This is your moment. He's kind of being anointed. Like we all kind of feel like, okay, this is it, right? This is like, this is his Aldo fight, if you want to say, maybe his Chad Mendes fight. I know it's kind of disrespectful to Aljo because he's the actual champ. Maybe Henry is the more Aldo fight, but this is it, man. You're being annoyed. This is Sugar Show. It's time. We're gonna find out Saturday night, and I love that because that's why they fight the fights, and we're gonna find out: is this Sean O'Malley's time? Is Aljo gonna keep the title and go for champ status and go up and move up to 145 to challenge Alexander the Great Volkanovski, which would be a very exciting fight. Aljo is gonna, because he's already said 99%. He's going up to 145. He's going to inject so much life into that 145-pound division. I mean, him versus Volk, him versus Holloway, him versus Ortega, him versus Yair, all these Taporia. These fights are, fights now we can all want to witness. So win or lose, I think Aljo's moving up to 145. So yeah, it's going to be a fucking hell of a main event. I do believe it ends in a finish. I don't believe it goes to decision. I don't see that. Next up, we got the co-main event. Not going to spend that much time on this, and this one's flying hella under the radar, as it kind of should. I mean, let me check Lemos' record here. All right, so she was on a 5-fight win streak before she got submitted by Jessica Andrade in the first round by standing arm triangle, if I'm not mistaken. Big wins are against Angela Hill by split decision. She submitted Michelle Watterson, and she TKO'd Marina Rodriguez. Those are her biggest wins. The 115-pound division is kind of a little lackluster right now. Rose is obviously moving up. Joanna has retired. Weili is the champ. She hasn't fought in a year. Finally, we have Tatiana Suarez in there. She's finally back from, I think it was 4 years of a layoff, multiple injuries just keeping her out, which sucked. And now we're seeing the fruits of her labor. She is coming on strong. I mean, her versus Weili is going to be incredible. I don't understand why we're not doing Weili versus Yana. I think it's Jianen. I feel like that's open goal. I feel like actually that's kind of the fight, the next fight that they're going to do in China, Weili versus Yan. And then Tatiana gets her title shot after that. So Tatiana's going to have to fight one more time. Somebody in the top 5, preferably, beats them most likely later on this year, gets her title shot somewhere maybe middle of next year or something like that. And it's the Tatiana Suarez era, in my opinion. I don't know anybody who's going to be able to defeat her in the 115-pound division. Weili has the best chance, and I can't wait to see that fight. Weili versus I'm blanking on her name now. Fuck. So Weili versus Tatiana Suarez. I can't wait for that fight, but we've got to get through the Lemos, and then we got to get through Yan. No disrespect to those ladies, it's just they're not. These aren't the big fights. These aren't the big fights. The big fights are the people that everybody's clamoring to see. This fight it's 2 title fights, but it's really being carried by Sugar Sean O'Malley and Aljo. I believe Weili's going to get the job done. I think she can get the finish. I wouldn't bank on it. Weili 2.0, as they call her, is something different. I would love a trilogy between her and Rose. The first one ended in a beautiful head kick knockout in the first round that caught Weili. Second one was a split decision. I'd love to see a third one, but right now Rose is moving up to 125, putting on more weight. I don't know if she's going to come back down. Maybe Weili follows her to 125 because that was kind of always being rumored is Weili versus Valentina. People want to see that. 125. Women's division is stacked with talent. I mean, from head to toe. I love that division. I think the matchups are so awesome. People are going to be super. If you're a true fight fan, you can't not be excited for all these matchups. I mean, you got Grasso as the champ, Valentina. That rematch is coming up in September. Manon Farhat versus Rose. Welcome her to 125 in September in France. Aaron Blanchfield versus Taila Santos, and I think next week in China, which is a weird spot to put that fight. Andrade goes up and down. Macy Barber's finally coming back. Hebos is still later on lower ranked in that division. She's always game. Casey O'Neill, who just come off her first loss, but she's going to be looking to come back strong. And you got the possibility of Weili Zhang following Rose up to 125 to maybe get that trilogy and also maybe get another championship. And we saw freaking Tatiana Suarez fight at 125 earlier. I know 115 is her division, but hell, if she starts dominating the people and there's nobody there, she's beating everybody, beating all these chicks' asses, and nobody's there to, really compete with her. Hell, go up to 125, fight one of those beast of women up there. 125 women's division is just incredible. It's a little tangent there, but I just had to give a shout out to those ladies. Next up, you have, hopefully it's going to be an exciting fight. Neil Magny versus Ian the Future Machado Garry. Machado. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. I was so looking forward to Jeff Neal versus Ian Garry because we knew what we were going to get, which was an all-out stand-up war. In this fight, Neil Magny, if you're hip to the UFC, if you're hip to Neil Magny and you've watched a lot of Neil Magny fights, you kind of know what Neil Magny is going to bring to the table. It's not a very exciting style. It's, staying on the outside, keeping the distance, push kicks, clinch, try to work for the takedown, submissions, and stuff like that. Not really threatening much finishes. I know he's gotten a couple of submissions lately, but, he's really a decision fighter if we're going to call it what it is. I so much respect for Neil Magny, a vet in this league, in this sport league. He's always a tough fight. He's a fighter that you really, in my opinion, the way I look at him, is a fighter that you don't want to fight. He's kind of that gatekeeper, but he's got such a difficult style that is, first off, not an entertaining style. So it's not gonna, it's gonna be hard to win you any brownie points fighting him. And it's going to be hard to freaking beat him because he's a tough cookie to crack. 6'3", 80-inch reach advantage, good everywhere. Not great anywhere, but good anywhere. Jack of all trades, ace of none, as they say. So it's going to be a tough fight for Ian Garry, especially when he was going from a guy, he spoke about this, a 5'10", stocky power puncher to a 6'3", 80-inch reach. Neil Magny, who likes to play on the outside and clinch game, right? It's a complete two polar opposites of each other. I've been watching Ian Garry since his first fight in the UFC. I told my Irish friend about him, my boy Aiden. Shout out Aiden. I was like, this guy's being crowned as the next guy. He's being crowned as the next guy. I don't know if he's next Conor, but he's being crowned as the next guy. It's a little shaky in that first fight, but was able to get the knockout, and he's still undefeated, 12-0. 7 knockouts, 1 sub. Big win in his last fight against Daniel Rodriguez in the first round knockout. I watched it last night. I rewatched it. That head kick came out, and it shocked me the second time around. I forgot it was the head kick that got him. I was just like, holy shit, he head kicked him in the fucking head. Beautiful head kick. He was just faster than Daniel. That was pretty apparent. It was the speed that killed Daniel in that fight. He couldn't keep up. We'll see with this. This is going to be tougher. It's a tall, same height as Ian, 6'3", 6'3", but Magny's going to have a 6 or 5.5 inch reach advantage on him. That's going to be tough to get through. But I can't believe, honestly, that Ian Garry's a minus 490. That is just, if you're looking to I hate to bet against the kid, because I'm always here for the young prospects coming up. I love the journey of the young prospects coming up, and he's like right on the precipice of that top 10. But I mean, if you're looking to really make money, I think Neil Magny is probably the smartest bet. Plus 370 for Neil Magny. I told you how difficult of a fighter is. He's beaten so many other guys. He beat Jeff Neal by decision. Similar fighter to Ian Garry. We haven't seen really Ian Garry's grappling game tested as much, or nothing that I can remember. He says he's been working out a lot on that, being in Brazil and stuff like that. He's been traveling around all these different places, but I don't know, man. I have it's a tough time because, like, again, it's kind of like the O'Malley thing. It's no disrespect to Sterling, right? It's just I believe when a guy like a Sugar Sean O'Malley is a champion in the sport is better off, and it's really it's kind of like the Conor treatment. Every time I believe when Conor's doing very well, the UFC is doing very well, and it's best for business. That's just what I truly believe. It's a weird way of looking at it, but that's how I look at it. And they fight styles that I preference. That's what I prefer: striking styles on the feet, exciting stuff like that. Not a big fan of the wrestling and stuff like that. I can enjoy it and have an admiration for it, but it's just not my cup of tea. And I'm not saying Aljo does this, but laying on top of each other, not doing much. Aljo doesn't really try to do that. He tries to actually work for the finish and whatnot. But this fight, like I said, it's the same thing. I want Ian Garry to win because I want to see that journey continue. No disrespect to Neil Magny. I just, Neil's 36. He's obviously on the back end of his career, and Ian Garry's 25 years old. He is coming up. He is 12-0. So many exciting matchups to go ahead of him in the welterweight division. Just to name a few. He gets his job done. You got Vicente Luque, who's just coming off a win. Kevin Holland, if he comes back down to 170. Jack Della Madeline. JDM, damn it. Sean Brady, Jeff Neal again, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Rachmanov, Burns, Bilal. Just so many exciting matchups for Ian Garry to get to. So let's go, Ian. That Boston crowd is going to be behind him hard. But it is going to be a goddamn tough one. I don't know who I'm going to be betting on that night. I might just say fucking and go with Ian Garry, but I do actually think that the smart bet is to go Neil Magny, especially that plus 370. That is a hard one to pass up. I'm going to skip over this next fight. It's no disrespect to these two. It's just, my boy Cody was going to fight. Love Cody. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Very disappointed he's not going to be getting in there. Batista, from what I know about him, I haven't seen, much of his fights and stuff like that. But, he's a submission guy. He likes to get the finishes. He's won three in a row by submission. And Blackshear's the kid that just fought last week and got a twister submission. I think it's the fourth in UFC history. He did it in the first round. So maybe that's going to be a hella exciting grappling matchup. I'd like to see that. But it's just, I think everybody knows that this is going to be the fight that the stupid hard. I shouldn't say stupid. I didn't mean it stupid, but like the mad indoor hardcore of hardcores are gonna watch this and love this fight. But others, this is kind of like in pro wrestling terms, the bathroom break. No offense to those guys, but it truly is. And I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna go to the bathroom during this fight but I'm gonna watch. I'm just saying, in general. Next, and if you look at the other fights, this is the one that you would be like, yeah, I could probably, maybe go get something to eat or whatever during that fight. Next up, the kickoff. Chito Vera taking on Pedro Munhoz. This fight is flying under the radar. This has a chance to be an insanely exciting fight. Pedro likes to bring those hands. He's got a great ground game, but he's kind of fallen in love with his the stand-up. He's never been finished. 5 knockouts, zero knockouts on his end. He's never been knocked out, never been submitted. 8 submissions in his career. Fallen on tough times lately. Lost to Aldo in 2021, lost to Cruz in 2021. Had the no contest against O'Malley, where it's not what I believe. I think it's pretty clear. Everybody can go look and see. He got poked in the eye, but the reason the fight stopped was because he got punched in the other eye, and then that's when he, started wiping. I was like, you can go watch the footage yourself. It's pretty clear that it wasn't the eye that was poked, that he was wiping at, and et cetera, et cetera. Then he got a win against Chris Gutierrez, decision win. He's coming off a 1-fight win streak. So, listen, Pedro is 36 years old. Like I said, he's going to bring the war, bring the heat. Chito, he's going to look to kind of come off of that bad performance against Corey Sandhagen, where it just really he wasn't active enough. He didn't throw. He's got big wins over Dominic Cruz, Font, Edgar. But even if you look at the Cruz and Edgar fights, the Edgar fight he was losing, and then he gets that knockout and with 10 seconds or a minute and something left in the third round. And then the Cruz fight, Cruz was doing incredibly well. I think I had Cruz up in the scorecards. I don't have the scorecards in front of me, but I think he was up on the scorecards too. And then he just, he got knocked out, got caught. And then the Corey fight, he couldn't find the target that fight. He was just getting beat everywhere. He couldn't find the target for Corey. Corey was just way too good. So he's going to be looking to bounce back because Chito, if O'Malley wins, the Chito fight is going to be next, the rematch. It's going to be massive. He can't afford to lose this fight. He's got to get the job done first. Him and O'Malley kind of both got to get their jobs done so that they can, make that fight happen later on this year, hopefully. I think Chito gets the job done. I don't know about a finish because Pedro obviously has never been finished, but we never know. He's 36 years old. He's taking a lot of punishment. He might get finished, but I would expect a decision win by Chito Vera. I think he's going to win the fight. And finally, the main event of the prelims, the comeback. It's good to see him back. A legend, future Hall of Famer, former UFC champion, the man that beat Anderson Silva twice when he was on the tear. Chris Weidman is taking on Brad Tavares. Chris Weidman coming off a 2-year layoff where the leg was snapped against Uriah Faber. We've all seen it. It's ugly, disgusting, terrible. He's coming back to listen, he's saying that he's coming back to prove that he can, go win a world championship. 39 years old, coming off that leg injury. He has not been the same fighter since the Luke Rockhold knockout. You just look at his resume since then. I think he's saying that, and that's great to have that mindset, but I truly think it's more he wants to come back and he wants his final memory to be, not him on the ground with his leg bent and snapped in half, writhing in pain. I think he wants to go out with a W. So I think that's kind of what this is. This is like the send-off. Maybe he comes back again. I don't see a path for Chris Weidman to win a championship. Tavares is not ranked. And you look at that 185-pound division. I mean, Munhoz is going to be freaking tough. He's got power, great jiu-jitsu. Chris Curtis is always game. Craig, I can't believe he came down to 185. That's crazy. His jiu-jitsu was crazy. Gaslam is still, well, no, Gaslam went down. Allen, who's on who's on a big win streak right now. Hermanson, maybe he could beat Brunson. I just don't see, especially in that top 10, top 5, it's going to be hard for Weidman to break into there. It's no disrespect to Weidman. It's just the facts of the matter, the truth of the matter. I hope Chris Weidman gets the job done. Tavares is a game opponent. He's tough as hell, throws hard, tough to take down, fought some big names. I don't know what to expect because what are you going to expect from Weidman in that leg? He's probably going to throw a leg kick or a kick right to start the gate, right out of the gate to kind of, shake the cobwebs off and kind of get that out of his mind that he can throw that. This has a chance to be a not exciting fight, or it has a chance to somebody's going to sleep. So we're going to find out. I'm rooting for Weidman. No disrespect to Tavares, but, want to see Weidman, especially after this long journey of, the injury and then coming back from injury rehab and all that, and how catastrophic that injury was. It's hard not to root for Weidman. Always find himself in Boston too. These New Yorkers, him, Aljo, both are New Yorkers. They're fighting in Boston. Wonder if he's going to get. He's probably not going to get booed. That'd be fucked up by the Boston crowd. But Boston is a place where a lot of people say the crowders are a bunch of assholes. But yeah, that wraps up UFC 292. My predictions for that. I know I didn't give you that many real predictions because some of these fights are tough to call. I gave you kind of what I wanted to happen. And what I actually believe and think is going to happen. But I guess just to, talk about some other news in the mixed martial arts combat sports worlds. We got Izzy taking on. What the fuck is the news channel here? It's different over here. We got Izzy taking on Sean Strickland next month in Sydney, Australia. I think we're all pretty clear on what we believe is going to happen. I think a lot of people are correct in their take of the lead up to this fight is going to be I think the fight's going to be entertaining because I think it's going to end the finish. I think Izzy gets the finish, but I think that the lead up to the fight is going to be something that's going to have everybody's eyes, peeled on that and be like, oh my God, what is Strickland going to say? How is Izzy going to respond to Strickland? That's going to be where a lot of people's eyeballs are. Let's see, anything else in the news? No, just the I guess the controversial news, the news of Wonder Boy's, I guess, still not receiving his pay. I don't even really want to dive into it because I think it's been talked at nauseum. I think he's going to get taken care of. I don't think he's going to get his full purse, which I do think is fucked up. I think, what the hell is the reason for show and when I showed up, I made the weight. The guy didn't make weight. I'm not inclined. I don't have to take the fight. That's not, a procedure. Like all these things that they're throwing at him, or, he declined he declined not to take the fight, even though the guy missed weight. And if you give me, it's just 3 pounds. It's just 2 pounds because he's allowed the 1 pound allowance. If it's just 2 pounds, just take the fight. Well, if it's just 2 pounds, just make the weight. Be a professional. That's why you're in the UFC. You're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to make the weight. And in terms of the second thing that they brought up, and then we offered him another fight, which I think a lot of people are seeing. I think it was the Ian Garry fight he was offered. But I'm 40 years old, man. Speaking of Wonder Boy's perspective, I'm 40 years old. I got to make weight again in 2.5 weeks or whatever it was. Yes, it's a favorable matchup because it's a stand-up versus stand-up, and I believe my skills are much better than Ian Garry. He's a rookie compared to my master skill set, but I got to cut weight again. That could really affect my what I can do inside that cage, and that's not okay either. So all these things that aren't in the contract, but we're going to negate them. It's like, you should give. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, he's making too much money. That's why he's not getting it. If it was like a guy who's making 50 and 50, they'd get the money, but he's making $250,000, I guess, is his show money. I guess $250,000 to win. So he's making 250 and 250, which is pretty damn good for Wonder Boy. Good for Wonder Boy. Probably should be making more, but that's another story for a different day. What was I going to say? A lot of people are saying, that's a lot of money to be given for a guy who didn't fight, and you can't set that precedent. What fucking precedent are we setting? There's no precedent here. I showed up. I made weight. I was professional. I'm here to fight. This guy didn't make weight. He was unprofessional. I don't want to fight him. I've lost before to a guy who didn't make weight, and I accepted the fight, and I lost. A very close fight, and it's Darren Till. I'm not doing this again. I'm at 40. If I lose one more fight, the path to a championship is done. And we don't know if Wonder Boy's probably not the kind of guy who's just going to be here just to, take fights, just, be a gatekeeper. He's either here for championships or he's here for exciting matchups, which I do think MVP is coming. Michael Venom Page is coming from Bellator to the UFC. It's got to be happening soon. And Wonder Boy Thompson would be a perfect person to debut him against in the UFC. That would be hella exciting. But yeah, Wonder Boy shouldn't be from what I understand, listening to people who are much more into this business and know more than me. The money that is going to be paid to the fighters is all accounted for before the event. It's put into like a fund, I guess, or whatever they call it, and it's kind of kept there so they know that this is the amount of money we're going to spend on the show and pay these fighters, win and show money. And we're gonna have to and so now we know, like, this is the money that's there. Well, if the money's already there, right? It's in a fund, the 250. Don't fucking sit here and tell me that he can't get paid because it's too much. It's already accounted for. The money's there. Pay the guy the 250. So you're basically just telling me you're now taking that money back and netting and plussing yourself 250,000, actually 500. But come on, man, you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. This shouldn't. I hate that shit. That's one thing about the UFC that I absolutely despise is the fact that so many backdoor deals and stuff, and it's just like, can we just take care of these people? I know Dana's going to take care of them. That's why I didn't really want to talk about it, but just my 2 cents on that topic. Not much else in the mixed martial arts world going on right now besides the UFC event. I don't think there's any major boxing events this weekend. Let me double check. I know a bunch of boxing fans might come from my head if I say that, and there's actually something going on. Oh, Usyk. Oh no, he's fighting next week. Or in 9 days. Yeah, no boxing going on. So that's the UFC. I think there's PFL going on, whatever. Ultimate Fighter just ended. Conor McGregor is basically announced, I'm fighting in December, around Christmas time, final pay-per-view of the year. Conor versus Chandler. McGregor versus Chandler, I should say. I've been calling it basically the entire year, even when people like, Brendan Schaub, shout out Schaub, John McCarthy, and Josh Thompson, shout out Weighing In Podcast, love them. Both were saying, this fight's not happening. It's not happening. Conor's lost interest. It's not happening. It's not happening. I've just been like, it's happening in December. Like, they just can't announce it right now because a lot of things just have to fall into place for that. And I do believe, because I heard Dana say this a couple months ago, say, he wants to go back to Ireland bad. And I think that might have been the real holdup is, do they want to do this in Ireland or Vegas? I think they're going to end up doing it in Vegas in December. But Conor versus Michael is happening in December. That's going to be exciting. I think we're also going to see the return of Paddy Pimblett on that card. And some other exciting fights of non-champions, but people that, are fan favorites and people really want to see. Maybe Ian Garry too. That'd be exciting. But that's going to wrap up my prediction episode for UFC 292 and talking some other news in the combat sports world. Not much popping besides UFC 292 this Saturday, which is a major event. Like I said, it's Sugar Show's first ever main event. I wonder how well it's going to do on pay-per-view. It's always been a question for me how well these guys do on pay-per-view ever since ESPN took over, and we don't really see the pay-per-view numbers except for the Conor ones, which do incredibly well. I'd really love to see if Izzy is an actual pay-per-view draw. I'd love to see if O'Malley's a pay-per-view draw. All these guys I want to see. But alas, we will not. But thank you for tuning in with me, watching along. If you enjoy this video, give us a like. Thumbs up. Doesn't take that much. Just click it. We appreciate it. It makes us smile. It makes us happy. We'll love you for it. Subscribe. Share the content with your peeps. Comment along. Tell me your predictions for UFC 292. What do you think is going to happen? And yeah, turn on the notification bell to be alerted for any of our future episodes coming out. I will see you Sunday morning for our NFL and NBA episode. We're going to be ranking the top 10 quarterbacks entering the season, ranking the top 10 head coaches, talking some news of Dalvin Cook signing with the Jets, Zeke signing with the Pats, what's going on. James Harden saying Daryl Morey is a liar and he will not play. A lot of news in that realm. Can't wait to talk talk about it with you guys on Sunday morning with Justin for episode 121. One day before my birthday. Birthday's Monday, the 21st. But thank you for tuning in. And until next time, like Justin says, I was Brendan Capozziello. Stay classy, San Diego. Or should I say, go fuck yourself, San Diego.